Hey guys, welcome back to another analysis video on the channel. On the agenda tonight we have a very interesting miniature game between Alexander Sharikov from Russia and, playing with the black pieces, Alexei Goganov, also from Russia, a strong seasoned grandmaster. Now this game was played in the Chigorin Memorial in 2024. I'm bringing you recent games that have been played during this year. At some point I might bring you some classic games as well, some classic miniatures. There are several and very nice ones. But for the moment we're focusing on recent games, on the games which have been played in the last few months. I'm bringing you a game today with the infamous, I'd say already, JOBAVA London opening or system. So we'll get to know a bit more about this system, a different variation that was played the other day in the Sokolov game, which I saw got quite a bit of traction. So I assume there are a lot of fans out there that play the JOBAVA London with white. At the time you're viewing this video, I'm probably flying over Dubai on my way towards Singapore. As I mentioned in my previous video, I'll be there for the next month working with FIDE on the media side of the Dingliden Gukesh World Championship. I already published my preview. I'll link it below in the commentary just in case you want to check that out. So happily, if this is the last video you see of me, then check out the airlines. Something weird might have happened. But anyway, I'm recording this still at home, but when it's published, which will be tomorrow, I'll be on my way to Singapore. If any of you out there are from Singapore and will be attending either the tournaments or the Open International, please say hello. I'd be happy to meet any of you guys out there and chat, and you can tell me what you like about the channel, what you don't like, and that way I can keep improving. Of course, if anyone wants to leave below a message of a commentary, don't hesitate to do that, and also click the subscribe button, and that way you won't miss any of my videos of the Singapore match. Let's get into the game. So Sharikov, as you can see, I don't have a photo of Sharikov, unfortunately. He is a 2040 rated player, which basically means he's in the area of a very strong club player, playing international tournaments, probably with more than 22,000 rated FIDE. For those of you who don't follow much the FIDE rated, you can add 200 or 300 points to get an idea of his online rating. So he's probably rated around 2,300 on Live Chess or chess.com. Goganov, as I said before, a seasoned grandmaster. He plays knight to f6. Now, normally when we get the JOBAVA London, we start off with bishop to f4, and against some lines white will then go knight f3, e3 and knight d2, and against some other lines, mainly g6 lines, white will develop with knight to c3. However, some players like to play knight to c3 straight away. In this case, the opening is called the Verisov gambit, because against d5, which is the best move against knight to c3, there is a gambit that goes with e4, very dangerous gambit. And there are some other very tricky lines that start off with bishop to g5. However, by playing bishop to f4, now we get the gambit, the system, the London JOBAVA, which is just like the London, but playing more aggressively, knight c3, and in many lines going for some sort of kingside initiative. So Goganov, I seem to remember that Sokolov played a6 in our previous video, or c6, one of the two. But Goganov allows white to play knight to b5, hitting the c7 pawn, because he isn't afraid of playing knight to a6 and then pushing back the knights with c6. This is a very sensible way to play. It's actually the way I play when I get to play against this system. Note that bishop to b4 check, c3 and bishop to a5 is another interesting way of defending the c7 pawn. However, although the computer favors this line, it does misplace the bishop, and unless we're very good technically, we might end up having a bad bishop on the queen side, more or less shut in. So you have to be careful. You have to really know how to play chess to be able to do this sort of line. Knight to a6 is more simpler. We develop and we'll push back the knight. e3, bishop to e7, knight to f3 castle, and now h4, which as far as I saw with the computer in my database is the modern way of playing this variation. We're trying to get in bishop to d3, maybe knight to g5, launch some sort of attack on the king side. Sometimes the rook can enter the fray via h3, and sometimes if a bishop or a knight is on g5 and it's attacked by h6, we can even allow the piece to be captured because we're opening up the h file. Black plays c6, and now a very important move, queen to a5. Sokolov also played this move, and it's a key idea when the black bishop is outside the pawn chain because it can't drop back anymore to protect the pin. So by putting pressure on this pin, black is threatening knight to e4, and somehow black is trying to showcase the dangers of playing h4 and leaving the king in the center. White plays knight to d2, a very decent move, protecting against knight to e4, allowing the queen to develop if necessary on the king side, and also keeping knight to b3 handy. Now black goes for c5. This is the theoretical move. The knight has moved away from the center, so it makes sense to strike in the center. Now the computer here suggests both g4 and also h5. I actually think that g4 could be quite interesting, and I'm not totally sure what black was thinking of doing against g4. Maybe c takes d, and at some point bring the bishop to b4. This could be an idea. I'm even thinking that maybe, and only maybe, I have to double check this line. There could be a sacrifice here with e5, hitting the queen and hitting the bishop. I'd have to double check this line, but at first glance it seems okay, but I'm not totally sure. In any case, white played knight to b3, which according to the engine is slightly dubious. Of course, the idea is to swap on a6 and then capture the pawn on c5. But as we'll see, Goganov has this idea under control. He draws back with the queen, and when black swaps, he doesn't recapture the bishop because then knight takes c5 would indeed be good for white. But instead he plays the intermediate move c takes d4, hitting the knight, and therefore he's going to recover the piece without allowing that variation. Now, for example, if the bishop drops back, we play d takes c3, and now we go knight to e4, hitting the pawn on c3. If white captures the knight, very strong knight, we can follow up with rook to d8, maybe bishop to d7, bishop to c6, and with the two bishops and the weaknesses on the c file, I think black is doing very well here. So Sharikov played queen takes d4, and of course now Goganov played queen takes a6. Now this is the second key moment of the game. Again, it's a difficult position to understand. Ideas could be f3, putting these squares under control. Another idea could be long castle. But it seems to me that the move selected by Sharikov is not the best move. He played bishop to g5. I'm not totally sure what this move achieves because a capture here would just be directly bad. So it's not clear to me what he's trying to achieve with this move. Maybe to prevent some sort of e5 happening, hitting the queen and the bishop. Who knows? Okay, so now b5 would be a very good move for black, initiating the queenside counterplay. But instead, Goganov plays h6. And now, white long castles, very aggressive. Now, as I explained before, in these situations with the rook on h1, you have to be very careful to capture a bishop here, because after pawn takes pawn, we might get the knight back. If the knight moves away, a very swift checkmate will occur with this mating pattern, and after f6 to escape, then we get the second mating pattern, cutting off the squares and delivering checkmate. These are mating patterns which everyone should know. Black played b5. He left the bishop in prise. a3 and rook to b8, threatening b4. Now the bishop drops back, hitting the rook. Not bad. Rook to b6. And now white went knight to c5, hitting the queen. This in theory is good play by white. Bishop takes, queen takes, and bishop to b7, threatening rook to c8. Now, if I had to choose a side here, I'd probably take black. I have an extra pawn in the center, which is always very useful. But more importantly, it seems to me that rook to c8, maybe b4, it seems to me that my attack on the queen side is slightly faster than his attack on the king side. Of course, if he has time to get in g4 and g5, maybe even bishop to e5, then I'm in big trouble. But it seems to me that black's attack is slightly faster. Now I think queen to b4 now, rook to c8, rook to d4, preventing rook to c4, and rook b to c6. I do think white has the initiative here. He's on the attack. He might even be threatening some exchange sacrifices at some point with the knight to e4 to follow. But it's still a game. I think anything can still happen here. Instead, white played directly rook to d4, trying to anticipate this line. Rook to c8, and now he really had to drop back to b4. This was really the only move, and we transposed to the previous variation. Instead, he decided to play ambitiously with queen to e7. No doubt this was a blunder, and you'll see why. Rook to e8. If the queen drops back to b4, now e5 would win a piece. So he went to c7, hoping that rook to c6, he would have the drop back to e5. And things are unclear. He does threaten bishop to h6. He might have some chances here. But of course, black found a wonderful tactic that you can try your luck and see if you're able to spot how black is able to win the game straight away. If you see it, leave your answer down below in the comments. You spotted it? Of course. You play e5 with a double attack, and when bishop takes e5, you trap the queen because the queen no longer has the escape route. And here white decided to resign. I do think this is quite an interesting game. It highlights some of the ideas for both sides in this topical variation. And again, with this game from Goganov and our previous game by Sokolov, I do think you have enough weapons in your repertoire to face the JOBAVA London with confidence and a good aggressive attitude. That's enough for me for today, and I hope that my next video will be live from Singapore, maybe with a preview or maybe with some analysis of the first game between Gukesh and Dingliren. I'm super excited to travel. My suitcase is getting ready over there, and tomorrow I'll be flying over, and hopefully my next time I'll contact you guys will be from there. Meanwhile, as always, enjoy the game, improve, try and get better, and have a lot of fun.